I am a mythology and history buff. So, with the release of the new film, The Northmen, I can't help but feel the influence of one of my favorite gods, Odin, stir within me. And, as expected, this film has also gotten the self-righteous shit disturbers making claims that it's an example of latent white supremacy. We all knew this was coming, but more on that later. Now, getting back to Odin, I've done several videos on him and how he is not who most think he is. He is not the pleasant all-father Yahweh type king of the gods. Odin is a lord of the left-hand path. He is a dark god, neither good nor bad, but like all gods, a force, an avatar of the archetype of the collective unconscious. But when the gods are shunned, ignored, especially a god with the attributes of Odin or Wotan, the reawakening can be catastrophic. Now, you might be on the left-hand path, but that doesn't mean there isn't something greater than you. Something beyond you, outside your field of influence. That would be your personal influence over the spiritual aspects of existence, your attempt at bending the spiritual to your will. This may sound contradictory to the basics of a path that leads one to becoming their own god. But if you've set out to carve your path in a psychic wilderness, take heed of the weather, especially storms. There's more to the archetypes than them simply being universal patterns of behavior. They are sentient currents within a transcendental cosmos, who, when they make their presence known to the world, wear many different masks or faces. Hence, they are greater than you. And if certain archetypes are repressed or ignored, when they eventually return, well, there can be problems. This brings us to Wotan and how his 1,000-year shunning led to the most horrific conflagration in human history. Carl Gustav Jung wrote in 1936, 3 years before the start of World War II, Wotan is the god of the storm and the frenzy, the unleasher of passions and the lust of battle. Moreover, he is a superlative magician and artist in illusion who is versed in all secrets of an occult nature. Jung also wrote, as an autonomous psychic factor, Wotan produces effects in the collective life of a people and thereby reveals his own nature. For Wotan has a particular biology of his own, quite apart from the nature of man. It is only from time to time that individuals fall under the irresistible influence of this unconscious factor. So, when did the archetype first put on this mask, the one we in the Western world are most familiar with? It begins with Vodnaz or Wodnaz, take your pick. He is a Germanic god that first reared his head roughly 2,000 years ago, a god of poetic fury and magicians, a god of war and death. He was not, though, the original chief of their pantheon. That was Tiawas, later known as Tyr to the Norse, a sky god. But with the coming of the conquering Romans encroaching on their territory, a new god of the Germans was needed to take the reins of power. A more personal, powerful god, one with a knowledge of both war and magic. Now, a god of war makes sense because these people were about to do battle with the most powerful military of their age, but why magic, you may ask? Because magic is a conduit to the subconscious. Realize there was no science of psychology back then, so accessing the subconscious to build a psychic foundation was paramount to solidifying their general intellectual and cultural climate. And with magic, this can be done quickly. Over time, the cult of Wotan spread throughout Northern Europe, eventually resulting in his most well-known incarnation, Odin. But, as we all know, Christianity, or the Christ archetype, took dominion over the collective psyche of the Western world. Thus, Wotan was relegated to the shadows for 1,000 years. But with German unification in the 19th century, he reawakened slowly at first, but then fully by the 1930s. And his howl of wrath was not silenced until 1945. Does this then mean Wotan is a god of hate, you may ask? And if one feels a pull toward him, then does that mean they're, No, of course not. The gods, the avatars of the archetypes are like the weather. Rain is necessary, but storms can be a problem. So, in conclusion, this video is about the suppression of the archetypes, not about a hateful god or hate. But if you feel a need to equate all those who have an interest in Germanic or Norse mythology with hate, then the problem is with you. You're either ignorant or you're an ideologue with a need to hide your insecurities under a mask of social justice. You are someone still motivated by the slave morality of the Christ archetype. And as we, on the left-hand path, know, when dealing with those who are under the dominion of the Christ archetype, their opinions can be easily negated. Until next time.